everybody, welcome to a Dreamer deck video. I was going to say profile, but this isn't going to be so much of a profile more than it is a deck breakdown slash tutorial in-depth guide on the deck. So, Dreamer is a TCG exclusive archetype that came out not too recently, and the deck got a second wave of support, which is the main reason why I'm covering the deck in the first place. I tested the deck without the new cards. It wasn't all that good. It had a lot of problems, but with the new support, I think the deck can definitely make it to rogue status. Also, as you can see, there is now a webcam. Let me know in the comment section down below if you like the webcam, and I can add it to future videos, and also leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But let's just get straight into the video. So, Dreamer, when it boils down to it, is a control deck, and you want to be cycling through your cards to generate advantage and also put your opponent in less of a good spot, because you have ways to destroy things and remove things from play. And what the deck previously lacked was damage, but now we have plenty of damage, and also we got a lot of consistency, which was something the deck was struggling with. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be walking you through card by card, but rather than just telling you what the card does, I'm going to be explaining it so you have a general idea of how you want to play the deck. Anyway, so starting off with the main deck, we have Morpheus, the Dreamer Black Knight. So this is sort of your go-to boss monster in a way. This card on summon can destroy a card on the field, but it has to be summoned by a Dream Mirror. So the way the cards and the mirrors work is, if you look at the artwork, there is a mirror on the artwork, and you always want to have that mirror up when using said card's effect. So in this case, Morpheus, the Dreamer Black Knight, you want to have the Dream Mirror of Jar, which is the light mirror, to use its effect. And then when you look at something like Morpheus, the Dream Mirror White Knight, you want to have the dark mirror so you can use its effect. But yeah, so Morpheus the Black Knight on summon is a pop. You want to be using this very careful because it's a once per turn effect, and also has a second ability to, if Mirror Jar is on the field, you can tribute yourself to special summon the White Knight. But when you use this card, you also want to make sure you try to get some damage in with it, because 2800 attack is nothing to scoff at, and it's kind of the strongest main deck monster in the deck. Anyway, moving on, we have Morpheus the White Knight. This is sort of a more defensive card. You want to be using it if you're under pressure, if the opponent is trying to deal with your board, because the card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. And you can also tag into the Mirror of Black Knight, so you can kind of see how the deck works. You go between one and the other depending on the situation you're put into. Next, we have the new guys, Phantasmos the Dream Mirror Foe and Phantasmos the Dream Mirror Friend. These are amazing play starters, and it kind of makes me want to play trading in the deck to put the bigger dudes into the graveyard, and I'll explain why in a little bit. So, the Dream Mirror Foe doesn't do a whole lot. This card is sort of a starter card more than it is an extender. The reason being, if this card is special summoned, it can attack directly this turn. That effect isn't very good. However, the other effect is very good, which is to tribute itself to special summon its counterpart, which is the Dream Mirror Friend. And this is by far like one of the best cards in the deck. When this card is special summoned by a Dream Mirror monster, you can target level 8 or lower Dream Mirror in the graveyard and special summon it. This is amazing because not only can you summon the sprites, but you can also summon the bigger guys. And that's the main reason why we are playing tanky, because we want to make sure we have access to Dream Mirror Foe to then tag into the Dream Mirror Friend. So as you can see, just one card such as Tenki already allows the deck to have a much higher ceiling than before. And a Dream Mirror Friend again can tag into its counterpart, but the main effect that we're after is the special summon from the graveyard. So because of that, I think trade-in might be something to look into into adding in the deck, so that you can discard your bigger guys and then generate a little bit of advantage, and then you now have a graveyard set up for your Dream Mirror Foe and your Dream Mirror Friend. And then finally, we have the level ones. We have Ikelos and Ikelos the Sprite and Ikelos the Mara. So Mara is, again, sort of fills the same role as the Foe, which is to bring out its counterpart, but it's not that bad on itself. So if it's got special summoned by the effective Dreamer monster, you can special summon a Dreamer monster from the hand. This effect is quite good if you have Black Knight or White Knight in hand. Lets you special summon them from the hand, so that effect is actually really nice. And then again, it can tag into its counterpart. However, Dreamer Sprite is really good because on summon by the Dreamer effect, we can add a Dream Mirror card, and this is very important because this is card. It's not a monster, it's not a spell, it's not a trap. It can be whatever you want. whatever you need, this card can search it, and then you can trip yourself to bring out the counterpart. And remember, you always need the opposite mirror. Just look at the card. Just look at the card art. It shows you the mirror that you want to have on the field when you use the card's effect. Now, moving on to some non-engine cards, and rather just some generic good cards that I think really help the deck out. As you can see, the list is currently 44 cards, but I think because the deck does so much, like the deck thins so much by itself, it doesn't matter a whole lot. We want to improve our opening hands as much as possible, and these seven cards really help us to do that. 8 cards. So starting off, we have 1/1 amazing card, gets rid of the bigger monsters in our hand into an extended level force to summon out these sprites. You can go into Mara, and then Mara tags into sprite, and you can generate advantage that way. Terraforming adds any field spell to our hand, very, very strong, and Monster Reborn special summons a monster from the graveyard. We don't get the unsummon effect, however, we then get the effect to tribute itself to bring the counterpart, so it's very, very strong. And then Set Rotation puts both field spells onto the field, and that is amazing because it essentially allows us to get any effect that we want in some of the other cards. Now, one of the brand new pieces of support in the spell zone in the spell area is Dream Mirror of Chaos. This is a fusion spell, and it's a very, very interesting field spell to me. Not field spell, fusion spell to me. Depending on which field spell you have, you can fusion summon with a different area. So what I mean by that is, obviously you can fusion summon with cards on the field, but if you have Dream Mirror of Joy in hand, you can, if you have Dreamer of Joy on the field, you can use materials in hand to fusion summon. However, if you have Dreamer of Terror, you can fusion summon with cards in the graveyard. Very, very interesting quick play fusion spell, because being a quick play spell, we can use it on our opponent's turn if we have to, or not necessarily if we have to, but like as a way to disrupt them, because then we can start tributing things and activating our boss monster's effect. But that's we can cover that in a little bit. Anyway, then for again another non-engine card but a consistency card, we have Fire from Mission Tenki, adding a Beast Warrior. The friends and the foes are Beast Warriors, which is rather strange but equally amazing. Gives us more consistency. We don't really care about the fact that it's a continuous spell. Most of our cards just leave the areas anyway when you have plenty of space for the Tenkis. Moving on to another continuous spell is Dreamer Phantasms. This is a monster searcher on activation, and also depending on which mirror we have, we can either buff our cards by 500 attack or decrease the opponent's cards by 500 attack. It's not amazing, the second effect, but the first effect is so good that this is an automatically 3 of. And then the most important cards in the deck are the Dreamer of Terror and the Dreamer of Joy. So they have two effects. They have their exclusive effect and the tagging effect. So the tagging effect is during the end phase, you can banish this card and then activate the opposite mirror strike directly from the deck or hand. And Dreamer of Terror, if you control a Dark Dreamer monster, each time the opponent special summons, they take 300 damage. So sort of like Sky Strikers, not Sky Strikers, Trickstars in a way. And then the Dreamer of Joy allows us to protect our cards because they cannot be targeted by opponents' cards or effects, or even their monsters' attacks, except they're our Dreamers with the highest level. So this is sort of where you can see the White Knight coming into play as being sort of a very strong defensive wall to stop the opponent from breaking our board. Moving on to the traps, we have Dreamer Fantasy, amazing card. The main way you're going to be recycling your field spells, but also controlling the opponent's board. You essentially just shuffle two Dreamer, well, one of each into the deck, and then you get to banish any card on the field. This doesn't, I don't believe this targets, and it's any card. So any problematic card, whether it's a back row, whether it's a floodgate, whether it's a monster that can be targeted, you can deal with them with Fantasy. And the really interesting thing about Fantasy is that the way it works with the field spells, because the field spells, you can actually tag the field spells. You can cycle through 2 of them every time. So what I mean by this is that if you have Joy on the field during the end phase, you can remove Joy from play to activate Terror, and then you can use Terror to activate Joy again, loading up your banished zone with two field spells ready for Fantasy to go off. And this is what makes the card so good. On top of that, it also has a great protection effect. If one of your cards will be destroyed by battle card effect, you can banish it from the graveyard. So if your opponent has it out to your cards, you can protect them. Super amazing card. Then we also have the Metaverse, just more consistency. And one of the best new trap cards that I got is Hypnagogia. So this card is really, really interesting because not only does it directly activate a field spell from your deck, but it also puts one in the opponent's field zone area. So if you're playing, for example, against a deck such as Salamangreat or any field spell reliant deck, you can get rid of their field spell and give them a Dream Mirror. And this is really interesting. This is really good and also interesting because how it synergizes with other cards in your deck that get different effects depending on which Dream Mirror you have. So in the case of Phantasms, now all of your cards gain 500 attack and all the opponent's cards lose 500 attack, which is pretty neat. It's not an amazing effect, but it's definitely a interesting effect nonetheless. And then finally we have the counter trap Dream Mirror Oneiromancy. This is a negate depending on which field spell you have. If you have Joy, it's a field spell and trap card negation, but if you have Terror, it's a monster summon negation, so it's really, really good. I'm only playing as a 1-of because we can search it with Sprite, and I don't know how much I want to open this card up. I think if you open it, it's pretty good, but you know, sometimes it can kind of break you. I'll have to see if I want to run more copies of this card, but for the time being, I'm just testing as a 1-of. For the extra deck, most of these cards don't really matter too much. The only ones that really matter is the new Dream Mirror Onieros, the Dream Mirror Urkling. This card is sort of where we are incentivized to tribute our cards. First of all, she's also a dark attribute, and the most important fact is each time if another monster you control is tributed, you can target one card on the field and destroy it. However, you can only use each effect once per turn. The second effect is if this card is destroyed, it floats into any Dream Mirror monster in your graveyard, which is really, really good because remember, cards like Morpheus can on-summon, if summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror, can pop something on the field. Then we have some level 8s. We have a bunch of level 8s in the deck. You rarely go into these, but it's nice to have them, just sort of a package to help you break boards. And then some more toolboxy rank 4s. We have Dweller if we're playing as graveyard reliant decks, Bagooska if we are going first, and Tiger King to help us search our tanky. You'll never go into these cards, but it's just nice to have them in case the opportunity comes up. Princess Sprite as a way to help us dig deeper for spells, and we have a couple of level 1s, and then some generic strong links. Link Rebo, lots of level 1s, also puts a card in the graveyard ready for the Dreamer Friend. Lanphalinkus, Cerberus Phoenix, just generic Link 2s. Nightmare Unicorn to just help us out anything in Barlow in case we need a backup boss monster. Again, you rarely summon this card because it's very, very, very rare you'll have 4 monsters on the field, and you're making such a big commitment for not a great payout, I feel like. Anyway, moving on to the side deck, these again are cards that I've went through and I thought about them, and you know, these can kind of work if you choose to add them. So you have some Chaos monsters like Blacklisted Soldier, Levianeer, and Chaos Sorcerer. You load up the graveyard a lot, and it's nice to have something to do with your graveyard, so Chaos monsters are great for putting pressure on board. And Diablos, because you tribute so much, you can kind of summon Diablos and rip cards from your opponent's hand as well as have another beat stick. So with Diablos being level 8, it kind of allows you to even play cards like Trade-In, as well as the Levianeer. Salamangreat Almiraj just to put things in the graveyard, and has a semi-decent effect. Trading for consistency, we're off down for consistency cards just to help you see more cards in your deck. Foolish Burial might be something worth playing if you're playing Trade-In as well, because again, puts cards in the graveyard for the friend to summon. Duality, you don't do a whole lot of special summoning in the first turn, if any at all. So Pot of Duality is great for helping you see more cards of your deck and really helping you set up your field. Call of the Grave, I think, is definitely a card that you want to be playing at some point because the deck is very, very fragile to any form of disruption, especially hand traps. So Call of the Grave might be something worth putting into the deck. Super Poly, because we don't really use our extra deck, you could definitely put some Super Poly targets in your extra deck and then just have Super Poly. And you can also dedicate your extra deck to Pot of Extravagance. So if you want to play Pot of Extravagance, you can easily dedicate your extra deck to Pot of Extravagance, because you only really need your boss monster to be in your extra deck, and you can easily put 3 of them, and then you can always have 1. Very rarely that you'll banish all 3. Then we also have Mystic Mine. Again, this is a pretty degenerate card, but it helps us slow the pace of the game down, and we can easily get rid of the Mystic Mine with our own field spells. And then for some trap cards, we have Trap Trick to help us search Dream Mirror Fantasy or Dream Mirror Hypnagogia, most importantly Dream Mirror Hypnagogia. Call of the Haunted to again summon more cards from the graveyard, and that can only be one if you want to play some Floodgates. But that's pretty much it for the archetype. I kind of covered a little bit of everything. If you did enjoy this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.